if we look at the inverse, the things that really aren't working tend to fall in one category. And it is that category of social mobile. It's the digital environment. And it's a tough environment to get your arms around. It may not be very fair to say that it's not working very well, but I think most organizations are kind of hitting on one or two cylinders, but not all of them. And part of it is the omni-channel environment. If we take a step back, we realize that our customers, our prospects, are looking to learn about our brand, to potentially shop and buy through different channels, to experience and interact with our brand through a variety of channels, and ultimately to promote our brand as well. If we turn to some of the examples and how organizations are starting to make some differences, particularly in the area of unifying experiences, the Boston Globe has actually a great example where they've worked very diligently to right-size content so that access to a prospect, to a customer, will be consistent regardless of the type of device. We also see some organizations making experiences much more contextual in nature. Zipcar is a great example of this. They use information, GPS, to locate, to pinpoint local cars relative to where prospects are looking for those cars. And they can actually marry the prospect's location to the available car, and they can unlock the car remotely. Again, one example, but a good example of really making those experiences much more contextual. And last but not least, we see, and this is probably the area where most organizations are still struggling, and that is syncing devices with products. One example here, Comcast Xfinity Home, where you're able to manage home security and other connected services through your device. That's really ultimately where a lot of brands are striving to go. So we take a step back and look at this, obviously quite complex digital environment today that a lot of organizations are struggling with, but the momentum and the speed is picking up very quickly. So organizations will need to find a way to get on board very fast. ORC International helps its customers understand the steps to take and then gauge progress against those steps. You know, it really starts with the positioning of the brand in terms of attracting the right employees and the right customers. Part of that is understanding and communicating very relevantly and effectively to the marketplace your value proposition. As you move into that space, you want to begin to understand the lifetime value of employees, certainly understanding their needs, their expectations, and how do you drive employee engagement over time, because they do influence the experiences that are created for those customers, which takes it to the customer journey, from the first exposure to the brand to ultimately that longer-term lifetime value of a relationship. Now, as you think about this, you need to be thinking about your products and your services in terms of how do you continuously innovate, pivot, and move in the manner in which the customers are looking for to enhance your products and services. But I would also say you need to be thinking about the context of all of this, whether it's the trends, the patterns, the disruptors, which we see in virtually every space, as well as the competition. So take a step back. Think about what you're doing today. If you're looking at these areas in isolation of each other, chances are you're missing the power of integration. As you look at each of these areas, you should be learning from one to the next, and that learning is exponential in nature when you integrate it across these core areas. Organizations that have been able to do this and do it successfully have recognized true enhancements in their performance, which has led to above average growth in their respective industries and sectors. So take a look, understand what you're doing today, and think about the power of integration across these core areas.
The second real thing that you want to beware is assuming that the results of a pricing study can be implemented directly.
At the opposite end of the scale, you have the talent repellers. Both internally and externally, you're not seen as a desirable employer.
Most organizations spend a wealth of time and investment on all three of those aspects.